Tennessee falls to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. But it wasn't Tim Banks to blame this time. Nope. On the contrary, it was Josh Heupel's offense early and often. Oh, we're going to talk about this. Welcome to the Vol Patriot Podcast. I am your host, the Vol Patriot, Patriot of the Volunteer Nation, and my co-host, J-Mello. This podcast is for the people, by the people, specifically Tennessee football, but also college football as a whole. We're going to cover weekly updates, pre-game and post-game reviews, in-game specifics, and of course, hot takes. We will talk about things that most sports podcasts are afraid to discuss. You'll hear it here and only here on the Vol Patriot Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Big Orange, go Vols. "16 points. Our offense is responsible for giving up 16 points in the first half alone. Let me walk you through it. First, we give up a safety. That's 2 points. Because of that, we immediately kick the ball back to Alabama's offense, which they drive down the field and score on us. That's 7 points. Then at the end of the second quarter, we throw a pick six with 9 seconds left on the clock, which gives them, what? 7 points. When you do the math, 7 plus 7 is 14 plus 2 is 16. This one's for you Alabama fans out there. We know math isn't your strong suit. You have 23 points going into the half. 23 points to our 7, and 16 of those points were because our offense practically gave it to them. Anytime you give up a safety and immediately have to kick the ball back to an offense that your defense, by the way, stopped twice before, you don't do anything with your defensive efforts early in this game. Like, we have to capitalize. Our offense is elite, right? We have a great coach in Josh Heupel. You got to go and prove it on the road. Go and score some points. That didn't happen. Not only do we not get any points, but we get a safety where they get 2 points and we got to kick the ball back to them. Yeah. I'm not surprised we gave up a 7-play, 3-minute, and 69-yard drive to Alabama to where they scored, right? So that's the offense. So 7 points, 16 total, guys, including the pick six, 16 points. Anybody with intelligence can see, wow, when you do that, how are you supposed to win on the road? You're not. But Tennessee still had opportunities to win this game, and we're going to talk about it. Jay?
So I think the biggest topic of conversation after the game was that pick six that Joey Aguilar threw, which was really unfortunate. The image I think that will live in infamy is the shot of the offensive coordinator up in the box. And I think that picture pretty much sums up how everyone as a Volunteer fan felt when they watched that interception happen. 9 seconds left in the half. You just can't have mistakes like that in a game where so much is on the line and in such a wildly hostile environment. You just can't make those kinds of mistakes. And unfortunately, that seemed to be the narrative of last night's game. There were lots and lots of mistakes. Now, I will say this because I would be remiss if I did not mention this. And I'm not using this as a way to place blame. But everybody saw it. Millions of people saw the camaraderie between the SEC officials and Ty Simpson as they were entering Saban Field. To me, that is unacceptable. And I didn't see that official being chummy with anybody on the Tennessee side. And SEC officiating is based in Birmingham, Alabama. You cannot tell me that there is not some sort of swing that favors Alabama. As a Florida Gator fan and as a college football fan in general, as a fan of the Southeastern Conference, it is unacceptable to have referees chumming it up with one of the teams before one of the biggest games of the year. I cannot believe I witnessed it with my own eyes, and it's a shame. Like, I feel bad for any school outside of this conference who has SEC officiating in playoff games, in national title games, because the SEC officiating crews are, for lack of a better term, scummy. They are scummy.
Yeah, they're garbage. I'm going to say this. Anytime that you have a big game like what you're saying, anytime you have a big game like that, it would have been nice to have seen the officiating crew before the game have both quarterbacks or maybe both team players or captains and kind of just having a conversation with them, just letting them know, hey, guys, this is what we're going to be calling, whatever, smiling, shaking hands, whatever. You're over there booed up with Ty Simpson in the corner? Excuse me? Yeah, no. That didn't look good. Even if it was just hey, I know who you are or whatever, it doesn't look good. We already know that the officiating crew is based in Birmingham. We already know that the officiating crew is already under heavy fire because the Auburn-Oklahoma game, this is not the time to be hugged up with Ty Simpson, making people kind of feel a certain way like, that doesn't seem right. I mean, you have the appearance, what we say, the appearance of evil. That was a bad look.
And as a side note, that crew was the same crew that officiated the Auburn-Oklahoma game.
Well, what do you know?
And again, there have been zero repercussions and zero accountability. Yet this crew is allowed to officiate this particular game. Frankly, that crew shouldn't be allowed to officiate any game going forward the rest of the season. But the SEC officiating, I assume, just is like, it's fine. No big deal. Greg Sankey and SEC officiating have a much bigger problem on their hands than they are willing to admit. And I will do what I can to figure out what on earth is going on, because it's out of control and it's inappropriate and it's unfortunate for a conference that is supposed to be so prestigious, and we're now looking like a bunch of fools. So I will get off my soapbox, but I think it's time for people to start making more noise than they are when it comes to the officiating in the SEC.
All right, Jay, let's get into some stats here on the game.
So Joey Aguilar was 28 for 44. He threw for 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Deshaun Bishop had 14 carries for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Star Thomas carried 3 times for 26 yards. Peyton Lewis 6 times for 18 yards. Your run game was not as impressive as it has been throughout the rest of the season.
I agree with you on that. Usually our run game is well over 200 yards a game, and we kind of control the line of scrimmage. I really feel like Josh Heupel altered the offense and really more or less tailored towards the passing game, which I felt like the passes were there. But in that first half, specifically that first quarter, I felt like we didn't do a good job of pass protection, and the running game was really obvious, some of our run plays, and allowed the defense to get into their run fits really well.
Yeah, so the trend seemed to continue with your receivers as well. Braylon Staley had 10 receptions for 92 yards. Chris Brazel, 7 receptions for 66 yards. Mike Matthews, 4 receptions for 39 yards. And Deshaun Bram, 3 receptions for 38 yards.
Yeah, our receivers, some of them did good, some of them not so much. You look at the game and Miles Ketzelman, he dropped a few. Mike Matthews dropped a few. Even Braylon Staley dropped a few. The only consistent wide receiver, as usual, Chris Brazel, when he gets the opportunity, he makes big plays, and he made big plays in this game, helping us convert some crucial third downs, and he gave us an opportunity to fight for a comeback. Okay, let's talk a little defensive stats.
So I was really surprised to see how well the defense played Saturday night, especially compared to what's been happening in previous games. The play calling was actually pretty decent, and some really good plays were made, and your defense overall did really well. There were a few things that stood out to me, like you guys didn't get any sacks on Saturday night, which is kind of out of character for your defense. And you had a couple players who really kind of for lack of a better term, dropped the ball
on
several possible interceptions, on several stops. But as a whole, it looked far better than it has. So I'll just run through a few of the guys. Colton Hood, 3 tackles, 1 assist. Edris Farouk, 3 tackles, 4 assists. Jeremiah Thielander, 3 tackles, 2 assists. Ty Redmond, 2 tackles, 1 assist. Jalen McMurray, 2 tackles, 1 assist. Edwin Spillman, for only playing the last half of the game, 2 tackles, 3 assists. But like I said, no sacks, which is kind of uncharacteristic, but overall much better than what we've been seeing.
Yeah, this is the part where I say this. Last week, I challenged Tim Banks to be better. And I have to admit, it wasn't the play call. It was not the defensive play calling against Alabama that I was most concerned about. To be honest with you, Tim Banks actually called a game that I can respect. He brought the corners up at times. And sure, what did I say? They're going to get beat sometimes. Things are going to happen. But give these guys an opportunity, and what did I say? They're going to respond, and I felt like they responded. Look, Ryan Williams and the other receivers out there for Alabama, they made a heck of a catch at times where it's just like you live and die with that. You live and die with that. The guy's over there contorting his body, making a beautiful catch, because if it's not, no one's getting the pass, or maybe it gets deflected or picked, whatever. They're out there making good plays. I give credit to Alabama's wide receivers. But that didn't continue in the second half, just so people can understand what was going on. Tennessee's defense made an adjustment, and they started taking those plays away and kind of forced them to kind of do trick plays. If you watch the game, they started doing reverse, tosses left and whatever to try to get our defense out of position and see how disciplined they were going to be.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this at length, because I have made it crystal clear in many of my opinions of your defensive players that it is not all on them. It is not all their fault that they are not able to make certain plays. I believe truly that is a coaching issue, and that those young men need to be coached up appropriately. You cannot rely on 1 or 2 players. You just can't. That's why you have a depth chart. You recruit and coach players because you can't rely on just 1 5-star recruit. It's just not possible. So if you are not coaching these young men to be successful, if you're not teaching them, if you're not coaching them, that's on you. That is on you as a coach, because you recruited them, right? So you saw something in them that you said, hey, I can probably do something with this. And it is your job to coach them up. That's just all there is to it. I don't really know how much more I could say. I will also say this, though. I am exhausted by the narrative that if Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson were playing, then the defense would look entirely different. You know what? Those young men who are replacing Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson are listening to that message that you are sending. And those young men look up to the people who are saying those things. And while they say not to drink the rat poison, it happens, especially in this day and age of social media. You can't keep those boys from looking up their names and seeing what people have to say. And the narrative has been, these kids aren't good enough. Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson are so much better. And that is not okay.
I'm really happy you brought that point up. That's something that I didn't think much about. And when we talked about it prior to the game, I had to recognize that as, you're right. Think about it. These young men, they're students, so they're going to hear from other students. They listen to these podcasts. They listen to these sports talk radios and so on. And some of these guys who are saying it are well known within the community. But the narrative that we're putting out, not forget ESPN and everyone else. We're talking about Tennessee personalities talking about this game like, you know what? We need Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson because pretty much our secondary sucks. They hear that. I get it. We're fans. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. But if you really want to push a positive narrative, if you really want to really have these young men play better, maybe encourage them. Give them something. Hey, you know what? We need to improve here, da-da-da-da. But to just flat out come out and say, hey, we just would look much better if we had this or that, right? That's not going to help nobody. They see that and maybe they play down, or maybe they use it as fuel to be better. And I feel like that's ultimately what happened. I'd love to say my encouragement prior to the game really fired up our secondary. Like they heard that somebody actually gives a daggum about them and believes they can do something. But I think these guys just said, hey, we're going to respond. Plus, their coach decided to coach and say, hey, look, I'm not going to coach scared. We're going to match these guys straight up. We're going to come up closer to the line of scrimmage. That's all I'm saying. Outside of that, I'm real proud of Tim Banks. I'm really proud of our defensive secondary for responding the way they did. I felt like as a whole, as you're saying, we played a lot better defensively, but there were moments where we just we didn't play well. We didn't play well, and the biggest thing was sometimes it was a blown assignment, and a lot of times it was missed tackles. We can't have that. We can't have that.
Especially if you want to play complementary football. Now, I will also just add on by saying the offense did not play well, and I would say that the offense was definitely more to blame for Saturday night's loss than the defense was. You have to play complementary football. You cannot fumble the ball on one side or the other and expect, the other side to hold it down for you the whole time. The defense can't score. I mean, they could. What are the chances, though, that the defense scores, 17, 21 points?
Yeah.
It's just not realistic. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. So there was not a definitive time where complementary football was played on Saturday night. And that, at the end of the day, is what really cost Tennessee that game.
Okay, Jay, final thoughts. I've been extremely critical of Tim Banks and his play calling, and I challenged him last week, and here we are, not blaming him for how the game went. He called what I would say not his typical defense, but he called the right defense, and he brought his guys up. He brought his guys up and let them play ball, and I got to give it to him. I'm happy that he called the game he called. I'm not happy with how our defense as a whole tackled or how they took bad angles at times and how we allowed situations to get away from us, right? We had opportunities in this game to really put points on the board as a defense, as what you were saying. Probably had 2 times to maybe go for a pick 6 or 3 times to, get takeaways, but just didn't happen. And then the bad angles and the missed tackles allowed drives to continue. So I will say it wasn't the entire game, but it was in crucial parts of the game, and that's not on Tim Banks. It was our offense that spotted Alabama 16 points, because you take that away, right, and we're looking at a 20 to 21 point game, and that last drive where we go and cross the goal line, even though I'm sure it would have been under different circumstances, things would have been a little different, much harder at that point, but that touchdown counts now. That touchdown matters. But we're just speculating at this point. I think Josh Heupel, has some work to do when on the road. The narrative now is, can Josh Heupel win the big one on the road? Well, he's proven he can, but it's tough. And he doesn't do it all the time. And he seems to coach a little out of character when he's in these big games on the road. So there's a lot to really break down, and some things that I myself, when I get a chance to fully go back and do some film study, I like. All in all, proud of our defense for showing up the way they did. They at least gave our offense a chance to win the ball game. And had our offense been who they typically are, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And for those out there, if you've gotten this far, you Alabama fans, you haters out there, I still believe in Joey Aguilar. He's still a better quarterback than Ty Simpson to me. Jay, what do you think?
My final thoughts are, I will say it again, I will continue to preach it. SEC officiating has to do better. And I am not just talking about Tennessee people. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Clapping and timeouts are 2 totally different things.
The play clock was at 1 when they stopped it. Now he's signaling for a timeout. He's signaling for a timeout. The officials stopped the play. There's 1 second on the play clock, so they're going to give him a redo and not charge him the timeout?
Hugh Freeze very frustrated by it.
Well, they're showing the replay now on the screen, and that's what Hugh Freeze is pointing to. He's trying to say he was clapping. I'm sorry.
It looks pretty clear to me. I mean, running.
Well, if he's clapping there, he's clapping differently than he was when he was obviously clapping.
Just for the record, the SEC officiating crews have got to do better. And my other final thought is the narrative has to change around people in the Tennessee organization. And I think this also goes for all of the university organizations. You people who have a name, who have clout, who these young people look up to, have got to stop talking about them like they don't matter. Like they're just there because they need some sort of backup. And you have to start treating them like the players you recruited them as, because you promised them all sorts of things when you recruited these people. You promised them to coach them up. You promised them time on the field. You promised them whatever, and you're not delivering on your promises. And so if you are involved heavily in any sort of college football program, you need to watch your mouth on how you talk about these young people, because at the end of the day, they are in some ways they pay your salary. Your livelihood relies on them. Stop talking about them like they are just there because, you know, you needed an extra body. I'm tired of hearing it. So, and one more piece that I'm very excited about, and probably shouldn't be because, again, this is his livelihood, but Billy Napier was fired today.
We're clapping it up for J-Mello. If you tune into Gator Bites, you'll understand her pain of Billy Napier and his escapade.
I think the entirety of college football knows our pain with Billy Napier. My heart's not ready for what's to come. But Billy Napier's been fired. We'll see what the rest of the season holds for Florida.
Vol faithful, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, go Big Orange, go Vols.